Good morning, Magic. I'm Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast, and today I'm going to be talking to you about shrines. No, not those shrines. No, not those shrines either. No. Today I want to talk to you about cards that have the shrine subtype. Now, if you've been playing Core Set 2021, then you've probably seen these running around. But if you know your Magic, then you know these are actually an homage to a much older cycle from Champions of Kamigawa, the Hondens. Now, Champions of Kamigawa was released all the way back in 2004. And it carried with it 5 Hondens that all had the shrine subtype and cared about each other. Kamigawa is a block based on Japanese mythology. You've got kind of this whole mortals versus gods things going on. On one thing, you've got the kami, who are these spirits, and on the other hand, you've got the humans who have stolen something from the kami. Now, a Honden is a very important place in Japanese mythology. In a Shinto shrine, a Honden is kind of the most sacred building in the entire shrine. It's normally somewhere that is not even open to the public and the visitors. And so in Champions of Kamigawa, we had 5 Myojins, and these Myojins were big deal gods. You've of course got Myojin of Cleansing Fire, Myojin of Seeing Winds, Myojin of Night's Reach, Myojin of Infinite Rage, and Myojin of Life's Web. And all 5 of these gods are represented with Hondens. Well, as a huge Kamigawa fan myself, I thought it'd be fun to dive back into our multiverse files and take a look at what the 5 original Hondens did, or how they might have changed through design. Let's take a look. Now, originally they all started off as 4 mana enchantments, but as you can see, the numbers got kind of moved around, some at 5 and some at 3. And at one point there was a discussion about if it should count everyone's shrines or just your own, for multiplayer. And I'm glad that they decided to just make it yourself, because even in a one-on-one game, if we both had shrines and they were counting each other, that would be kind of nuts. Honden of Cleansing Fire. The biggest change here, it went from gaining you 3 life per shrine to 2 life per shrine. Which either way, still works for Zur's Weirding, which I have comboed this card with quite a bit. It's a little bit of a draw hard lock, so if you want to make some friends very frustrated at you, try this one out. Honden of Seeing Winds. This one was originally 4 mana because, well, they were all 4 mana. But when their mana costs were decoupled, this one was bumped up to 5. And probably wisely so. A card a turn is a big deal. Honden of Night's Reach. Looking back at the multiverse files, there was a bit of discussion around this one. There was talk about if it should do loss of life, for example, draining your opponent for 1 life per shrine that you controlled. But that was pretty similar to the red one, and then the red one would maybe have to only hit creatures, and ultimately it was decided to leave this one discard. The biggest note against it being discard, though, was that it didn't scale very well. Once they were out of cards in their hand, well, it probably wasn't going to do anything more at all. And speaking of Honden of Infinite Rage, this one went through a pretty big swap. Originally, this was 5 mana. And if you've played with this card in Limited, you would know that 3 mana it is pretty strong, so it makes sense that it was originally more. It appears that its mana cost was actually swapped at one point with Honden of Life's Web. So Honden of Life's Web was 3 mana, and this was 5 instead. And frankly, they would have both been pretty powerful at 3 mana. And speaking of Honden of Life's Web, the other one that was at one point considered was actually making it a creature with power and toughness each equal to the number of shrines that you controlled. Interesting, that would have been a big departure, and made Shrine a creature type, which is pretty wild. And that's what was left in the card file for the original shrines. It's possible there are other things discussed, but this is what was captured for all of history anyway. And all of these play great with Core Set 2021's 6 brand new ones, so get your shrine decks brewing. Sanctum of all, anybody? So now the big question, will we ever go back to Kamigawa? I know I personally would love to. I keep sliding cards like Yuriko the Tiger Shadow into sets. But it's a bit of a hard sell. As Rosewater's talked about before, the set didn't do very well the first time around, so it's hard to get the support to bring it back. But as I always say, given enough time, anything is possible. So who knows, maybe someday. I'll talk with you again on Wednesday, and in the meantime, may you find your time to shrine. You got this.